Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to do a beer that is half Swedish, half English, and on the Swedish side of things we've got one of the breweries who are very long established here in Sweden, but I have to say they do some pretty damn good beers, and when I first moved to Sweden these guys were one of my favourite breweries. And on the English side of things we've got a brewery who are really quite well regarded these days, but one of the newer English craft breweries, I guess you could say. So for this one we are going to have a look at a beer which is called Ugo IPA. This one is a collaboration between Oppigårds Bryggeri from Dalarna up to the northwest of Stockholm here in Sweden, and this on the English side of things it is with North Brewing Company, who are from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. This guy comes in at 7% ABV, and from what I understand it is a New England style IPA, so really looking forward to trying this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done before, both from Oppigårds Bryggeri and from North Brewing Company. Hopefully I can add more from both in the fairly near future, but I've reviewed a good few beers involving both of those guys. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beers based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and another one for all the English beers. This beer will of course appear in both of those lists since it's half and half, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about both breweries then before we actually taste the beer, onto my brewery notes. So we'll kick off with the Swedish side of the brewery then, onto Oppigårds Bryggeri. So Oppigårds Bryggeri were founded back in 2003 in Hedemora, which is to the northwest of Stockholm. It's actually quite close to Borlänge and Falun in Dalarna county here in Sweden. But the brewery sits on the 250-year-old Falkenström family farm in a small wooden building which was apparently constructed back in 1896, and this space was originally used for flax dressing and also for their great-grandfather's metal smithing, and all the beers were originally brewed in this old building, but they've also added a new malt house fairly recently, and they do have a completely new brewery from what I understand. But the brewery itself was founded back in 2003 by Björn Oppigård to basically revive the family farm and also to revive the old tradition of brewing Swedish farmhouse ales. And these beers of course were the norm in Sweden until the wave of kind of these genetic yellow fizzy kind of lager things took over in the 1800s, and this made the farmhouse ales largely unprofitable. But the brewery became very, very popular, and it's allowed the Falkenström family to continue to make their living on the farm as they've done it since the 1700s. And in their first year they produced only 8,000 litres of beer and basically sold it very, very locally actually, but they now produce over 1 million litres of beer per year, and they've got a new Italian brew crate in this new brewery that they've just completed, and they've got a production capacity every year of 2.5 million litres of beer. So they are a fairly big operation, and pretty much any Systembolaget that you go into here in Sweden you can find some of the Oppigårds beers. There are still a few that I actually need to review for you, but my personal favourites, I do like the Turbo Stout, I really like that one. The New Sweden IPA is very good, and the India Ale is one that I really quite like as well. So those are probably my top three. I do need to try the Amarillo, that's one that I really want to try, because I've heard that it's a very, very good beer as well. But yeah, if you're interested in Swedish beer, Oppigårds are one of these breweries that are a little bit bigger, but they do some really, really nice, very solid ales if you like, so you can't really go wrong with them in my opinion. And New Sweden IPA is one that is really good as well. And another one that I had from those guys that was very good was the was it called the Luscious IPA or something like that. They had an IPA when I first arrived in Sweden back in 2015 that was very, very good, and I really enjoyed that. But if you get the chance to try some of their beers, I really recommend that you do, and you can check out the brewery Facebook page and the Instagram and stuff like that and keep up to date with all the latest goings on. But the thing I find cool about them is that they are one of the bigger breweries here in Sweden, but they do still keep doing collaborations and producing other beers. The one they did with Närke Kulturbryggeri recently, the Turbo Stormax Porter, that was probably one of the best Swedish beers that I've had actually, so if you can still get a hold of that one, I really do recommend that you do. But that's all you really need to know about Oppigårds Bryggeri just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, as I say, check out the links in the description below. So on to the English side of this brewery then, or this beer I should say. So North Brewing, as I mentioned to you earlier, are based in Leeds, and they were founded by John Gagnell and also Christian Townsley, who owned the North Beer Bar together, which they opened back in 1997. But today they operate 6 venues around the city, and apparently North Bar used to work quite closely with the likes of James Clay and Vertical Drinks, which were basically drinks distributors, and they used to run pubs and things like that, and they were helping to promote craft beer around Yorkshire, which is of course England's biggest county. But the brewery is located in Taverners Walk Industrial Estate, and it's got a 200-person tap room and a 15-barrel brew kit. But the brewers at the brewery are Seb Brink, who used to work for Golden Owl, and also Darius Darwell, who used to work for the Bristol Beer Factory. And as I've told you in a number of the English beer reviews that I've done, North Brewing are getting quite a reputation these days because they are doing some pretty awesome stuff. They're mainly focusing on IPAs. They've been kind of riding the beer nerd train, if you like, and doing a lot of really interesting beers. One of the best ones I had was their collaboration that they did with 6 Degrees North from Scotland, who are one of my favourite breweries from home, and the Belgian IPA that they did together was very, very nice. But if you get the chance to try some of the North Brewing beers, I really recommend that you do. As far as I'm aware, they focus mainly on IPAs, New England hazy IPAs at that, but they do have a few sours from what I remember too. But if you get the chance to try some of these North beers, I do recommend that you have a look at it. And of course Yorkshire is a fairly well known kind of beer county these days, as Rob from Hopscene would testify, and also Stuggy Pickard from Gingery Ale Trail as well. 2 very good beer bloggers that you have from that part of England. But yeah, North Brewing Company, one of the English breweries that you definitely want to check out these days. Quite new, but building a very, very good reputation for themselves, and they're very prolific as well. They're always putting different beers out there. So in their case, do check out the brewery website and have a look at their Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and you can keep up to date with all of the latest goings on there. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about both breweries in this case. As I say, check out the links in the description below if you want to learn more, but let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So yeah, we can get rid of the brewery notes just in a second there. I've got one more thing to tell you about this beer. So as I said, the hop profile in this beer is Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe and Idaho 7. The malt base is Pilsner, light caramel malts, torrefied oats and torrefied wheat. The Idaho 7 hop is one that I had never come across before, so I did a little bit of research on this. The Idaho 7 hop was first produced in 2015 at the Jackson Hop Farm in Idaho, and it's supposed to give you a very kind of big pine resiny sort of feel to it, but it's also got notes of apricot, orange grapefruits, red grapefruits and papaya apparently as well. So I'm really curious to see how that turns out in this beer. But when I encounter a new hop, I always like to do a little bit of research on it. But let's get rid of the brewery notes just now and we'll have a taste of this beer. So like I said at the start of the video, this one is a 7% New England IPA, and it's kind of interesting how this one's presented. I do quite like the sort of metallic look that they've gone for on the can here. On the side it does tell you a little bit. It says, in Dalarna there is a small beer festival called Beer and Beard, a real gem. We will be there, and so will North Brewing, a leading UK brewery dedicated to creating beers with big juicy flavours and tons of hops. With such prominent visitors in Dalarna, we wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to make and brew a beer together. It's useful to exchange experiences and ideas with fellow brewers. The beer we ended up having was a juicy IPA, 7% ABV with lots of American hops. We've used 4 different varieties: Citra, Idaho 7, Mosaic and Simcoe. The malt grist contains 73% Pilsner malt, 17% torrefied oats, 5% torrefied wheat and 5% light caramel there. So yeah, and you can see there's the signature of Bjorn Felkström as well. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. There is the blog there if you want to have a little read at that quickly. Just let the camera focus. You can pause it if you like. And of course down here you have the North Brewing Company symbol. Of course, like I said, these guys are from Leeds in Yorkshire, and it says good beer from Dalarna on it, basically beginning with a tradition, if you like, or beginning a tradition, I guess that would translate to. But yeah, begin back in 2003, 33 centilitre can at 7% ABV. Without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. Very curious to see how this one turns out, and as soon as you open this beer up, I'll say straight away, you get these lovely fruity esters just jumping out at you. Like I said, one of my favourite beers from the Oppigårds Bryggeri would have to be the new Sweden IPA. They really nailed that style pretty well, actually, I have to say. But yeah, looking at this beer, it looks absolutely lovely. So you can see it's poured a really nice bright yellowy colour, this one. A nice kind of bright, almost, you know, mango juice, pineapple juice sort of thing. But pretty much, I would say, if I put the light through this, it's a very, very solid yellow colour, this one. So half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one, not even a little bit creamy, definitely a perfect white head. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see a nice, you can basically see that this beer is pretty much opaque. There's not a lot of transparency to this one, but one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there. So looks very, very nice, but not unsurprising for one of these New England hazy style IPAs. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty good. And I will say something about this. The Oppigårds beers, when you smell them, they do have this almost oily aroma to them, and you know, you can pick that up right away with this beer. When you try so many beers from the one brewery, you do get this idea. They do tend to have their little traits and things, if you like, and I've always found that the Oppigårds beers, they have this nice oily, fruity quality to them, and you pick that up right away with this beer. But it's not surprising because, of course, this one is actually brewed at the Oppigårds Bryggeri, not the North Brewery. But yeah, so with this beer, straight away, nice mangoes from the Citra, a lot of nice kind of passion fruit which will be coming from the Simcoe as well in this beer. There's a good bit of an orangey kind of tangerine note from this one, and of course when it's the tangerines it's the mosaic. But there's a lot of kind of complexities to this. You can pick up a little bit of the apricots, which, as I say, is one of the things you should expect from the Idaho 7. This is my first time encountering this hop completely. I've never had anything, as far as I can remember, with that Idaho 7 hop in it. So it definitely, this beer has a really nice overall tropical note to it. As I say, you get the mangoes and the passion fruits from the Citra and Simcoe, but I think there's a good apricot-y note coming out of this one. Maybe a little bit of papaya or something like that as well, which I'm guessing would be the Idaho 7. But there's a nice, slightly sharper tangerine orange to this beer as well for me. I'm not picking up too much of the red fruit, but you can pick out the complexities that you're going to get from some of these hops as well. There is a little bit of that blueberry, which is the mosaic. Mosaic always gives you a kind of tangerine blueberry sort of thing, but you can also pick out some of the light cheese there. And in fairness, like I said, there is a little touch of that almost kind of red berry, red currant kind of thing coming out of this one, which again I'm guessing is the Idaho 7, but for me mainly it's an apricot-y note that's coming out of this beer. You will notice with this one, it smells, it almost has a little bit of like a fruit yogurt, fruit salad kind of aroma, this one, because of the amount of tropical fruit that's in there. And the orange is the thing I think that's given it just a little bit of sharpness, the sort of tangerine oranges from the mosaic. But there's a lot of tropical fruit in this one, and just a little bit of a blueberry red currant kind of thing too. But really this beer, it reminds me a lot of the yogurts that my mum used to put in my lunches when I was a little kid going to school. It really has that kind of yogurty, fruity sort of aroma to it, this beer, in my opinion. Underneath that though, you can definitely pick up, like I say, there's a bit of that wheaty malt coming out. You can definitely smell the wheat, and you can get the oaty creaminess in there as well. A little bit of an almost biscuity caramel thing, which is to be expected, to be honest, when you've got a malt base like this. But yeah, on the grassy kind of floral side of things, I would say that element of the hops in this beer is definitely more grassy rather than anything else. But to me, as I say, a big fruit salad type beer this, and I'm very curious to see how it turns out in terms of flavour. So let's have a go at this beer then. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you get stuck in. But this one is the Ugo IPA at 7% ABV, a collaboration beer between Oppigårds Bryggeri from Hedemora in Dalarna County here in Sweden, and North Brewing Company from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. So let's get stuck into this one. Cheers, slange, skål. Ooh yeah, that's a nice beer. It's the thing I'm noticing about this one is that it's very, very smooth. And I was getting that impression from the aromas and things that you get from this beer. It's reflected in the flavour, if that makes sense, which is kind of interesting. So like I said, this beer, it has almost, from the aroma, you get this vibe of almost just like a tropical fruit yoghurt, something like that. So yeah, with this beer it's interesting because as a New England IPA, they did say there was a good chunk of Pilsner malt in this, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 73% Pilsner malt. And with this one, it's interesting because it has the flavour you would expect of the New England IPA, but it's just got a little bit less creaminess and a bit more crispness and drinkability to it. I think that's a fair way to kind of describe what's going on in this beer. So with the malt base then, you can feel definitely that sort of wheaty quality, that just blankets the middle of your tongue, and there's a little bit of oaty creaminess in there, and right in the centre of your palate you've got a little bit of that almost biscuity, slightly caramelly thing there, or cookies as the Americans would say, just so we're getting all these proper descriptors in there. But yeah, you can really feel that with this beer, but at the same time, you know, the Pilsner malts that they've got in the beer just gives the malt base a little bit of a lighter quality, if that makes sense. You've just got a little bit more of that nice kind of crispness in there, which is good. So for me overall, the flavour profile of this beer, it is a New England IPA, I don't think there's any doubt about that, but it's just got a little bit more of a if it's possible, you know, these New England IPAs are very drinkable as they are, but it's just got a little bit more of a kind of crisp drinkability about it. So it's a really interesting take on it, this one. I think I've had one or two New England IPAs now that have had a bit of Pilsner malt in them, so it's an interesting direction, if you like, for these beers to go. But the malt base is nice, not the creamiest of malt bases you're going to get from New England IPAs, a slightly more crisp kind of version of that. But let's focus on the hoppy side of this beer now. So back corners of the palate, a little bit of an earthiness there, that'll be from the Mosaic, I would suspect, in this beer. I've always found that Mosaic just has a little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, there's maybe just a little slight touch of an almost herbal quality to this one. I do wonder if that's the Idaho 7, because I've never found that with the other hops that are in this beer, because I do have experience of those. And as you come further forward to the front corners of the palate, there's a nice, almost slightly spicy floral aromaticity to this one. Then round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a little bit of that lighter kind of grassy sort of thing, and of course behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters really start to come out of this beer. And again, it's pretty much as I was picking up in the aroma. You've got some nice passion fruits in there from the Simcoe, that's kind of forming the linchpin of the beer for me. There's a good bit of mango mixing in with that, which is from the Citra, and the apricot-y flavours are really coming out too. In the beginning, I think there's a little bit of that kind of sharper tangerine orange in there. Yeah, I would say that there's definitely a little bit of a tangerine orange in there at the beginning, and I like it comes out, and then as you go further into the aftertaste, the orange just, that tangerine orange just dies away a little bit, and on the very front tip of your palate there's a little bit of a lychee note in there, which is one of the complexities of the Citra hop, of course, but you've definitely got a lot of the blueberries from the Mosaic in there as well, and I think there's a little bit of that kind of red curranty, red berryish sort of thing, which I'm guessing again will be coming from the Idaho 7. But this beer has a really nice kind of fruity complex to it. It reminds me a little bit of a fruit salad. I said in one of my other videos that I filmed quite recently that it's almost like we had these sweets in Scotland that were called frutella. They were like, I don't know if you get chewits in the rest of Europe, but they were these sort of like Starburst, I guess. They were almost similar to Starburst, but they just tasted a little bit different, like Mawam or something like that. And if you crush all these different fruity flavours together, this one's a little bit like that, but if you had like a sort of tropical mix, it's kind of how the flavour of this beer, the fruitiness of this beer kind of comes out. It's just got a little bit of that almost very slightly fruit yogurt quality to it, which is kind of interesting. I like how everything in this beer goes together actually. So I'll give a big thumbs up both to Oppigårds and to North Brewing in this one. They've pulled off a nice beer here, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again. I do hope that they continue to produce this. As I said, the other beer that I had from Oppigårds recently, the Turbo Stormax Porter, Turbo Kagen Stormax Porter that they did with Nerke Bryggeri, that was really good. And again, in this case, they've produced a very good New England IPA, so I do hope that they make these beers a regular, because it'd be a shame for them to be brewed only once. But yeah, really solid New England IPA. If you like the sound of it, and if you know, Oppigårds, as I say, one of the Swedish breweries that you definitely need to check out. This one for me, it's almost got like a little bit of a milkshake IPA quality to it, but it does stick to the New England flavours, if that makes sense. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, mid-bodied, carbonation is kind of medium on this one. This beer just feels a little bit lighter and crisper, mainly because of that Pilsner malt that it's got in the base, I would say. Good little bit of wetness to the mouthfeel there, not quite as creamy as some of the other New England IPAs that you're going to come across. As I say, again, I think that's down to the malt base. The malt base is mainly quite smooth, but again crisp because of that Pilsner malt in there. There's a little touch of sweetness from the caramels in there. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness. I think it's around 35 IBUs in this one. I think it might be just a little bit more than the kind of standard 30 IBUs that you've got in this one. Either that, or it could just be because of a little bit of spicy floral aromaticity to the beer, but lots of nice juicy fruity characters, and overall it's just a very, very solid beer, and I was really glad that I got to review this one for you. So yeah, maybe this review's a little bit longer, but this is a really quite interesting beer, and it's cool to encounter another hop. As I say, I'd never tried the Idaho 7 before, but hopefully this isn't the last beer that I review that has that in it. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So the Ugo IPA, really nice fruit salady New England IPA, this one. A little bit crisper because of the Pilsner malt in there, but to me a very, very nice beer, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. So big thumbs up both to Oppigårds and to North Brewing, and I'm sure I'll return to them in the near future. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Oppigårds Bryggeri and from North Brewing as well, and I'm sure I'll return to both of them in the fairly near future. So this was the Ugo IPA, half English, half Swedish, and just a very, very nice beer, this one. I like how this one came across. A little bit of a change of pace for the New England IPAs, which is a very, very popular style these days. So until the next time, slàinte just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Lovely beer this, make sure you check it out. One of the small partiers on the 2nd of November through Systembolaget here in Sweden. Until the next time, slàinte just now, skål.